Welcome to the Habits and Hustle podcast, a podcast that uncovers the rituals, unspoken habits, and mindsets of extraordinary people. A podcast powered by Habit Nest. Now here's your host, Jennifer Cohen.
All right, guys. So today on Habits and Hustle, we have a face reader. His name is Eric Standop. It's very nice to meet you. I wanted to start by saying, and I said this to you before, I have been dying to have you on for months and months and months. I find what you do so fascinating, and I'm just excited to hear what you have to say. I mean, you're a face reader. There's probably not many of you in the world.
Yes and no. On the one hand, there might be 5 or 6 who are specialized in that kind of old technique.
Right.
But then we have 7 billion face readers on the planet.
Well, oh, right. So you were saying to me before that everybody is a face reader.
Yeah, absolutely.
But how did you become a professional face reader?
Well, it started 15 years ago. 15 years ago, I had my second burnout. I left my job. I was a CMO in the computer gaming industry.
You were?
I was just running away from what I did. And running away meant I stopped in South Africa, in Cape Town.
Right.
And at the beach, I tried to kite surf. It didn't work out. So I went into a bar, and because friends recommend me, there is a face reader inside. And I said, that's bullshit. I don't believe in stuff like that.
Right.
But we bet. So I went inside and I saw anything that I expected. An old man, rotten clothes, no teeth, alcohol. So I was like, yeah, that's what I expect.
Right.
I was very rude to him, I have to say, and said, oh, you're the guru, the master, read my face, come on. And he said, oh, I can tell you are aggressive, you're not patient, you're competitive. And I'm like, oh, that's what I would say to anyone who is in a management position or wherever. And he said, okay, let's talk about health. And while we talked about health, he summed up all my health issues. And that was frightening. On the other hand, I was curious as well, because how can that be? How can an inflammation of the intestine written in the face, or asthma, or allergies, how can that be written in the face? How is that possible? So my idea was to go back to Europe, to learn it, and then use it as a tool in my profession, my business. So next time I speak to the CEO, or to clients, or to employees, I know exactly what's going on in terms of health.
So you can actually tell someone's health by reading their face?
Yes and no. So first of all, everyone can do that. When we know someone well, we very often say, oh, you don't look good. Everything okay with you? Are you healthy? Because the organs are connected via the nervous system with your face. If there would be no connection, we couldn't say that.
Right.
And the old doctors, Hippocratic Oath, they have been face readers because there was no blood screening. There was no other test except reading and also smelling and tasting. Sweat.
But you can't, besides, you said, if I were looking at someone I know as a friend, I'd be like, yeah, you don't look so great. Your color could be off, but I would not be able to tell if someone has asthma or...
Okay, let's start at basic.
Yeah.
And let's start basic. When you see a man, a corner here, somewhere in the streets of LA, and you see a big red nose tip, right?
Yeah.
So you have...
A big what? Red?
Nose tip.
Red nose, okay.
So you first have an idea of, why is that?
Right.
And if you see that this guy is a little bit shaky, you already refer to alcohol.
Right, that's true. That's true.
Why is that? Now, the nose tip is connected with your stomach. So any changes in the stomach color the nose tip in a red way. Because the inflammation of the mucous membrane of the stomach, then via the nerve system, colors the nose tip reddish. And then you know, there's an inflammation in the stomach. From the alcoholic, it's the alcohol, the strong alcohol attacks the mucous membrane, but it could be also gastritis, or it could be kind of a nervous reaction when you have stage fright. So we very often grab the nose tip also when we feel something is stimulated. That's very often the case when we have intense feelings. Or, like some others did when they lie, they pretty often grab the nose.
Really?
Yeah, that is one sign. It doesn't have to. If
your tip of the nose right now is red.
Yeah, because I grabbed it.
Oh, you grabbed it.
But no, you're right. My stomach is already stimulated. I just came from a big summit in Napa Valley, and I overdid. I overindulged. I eat a lot. I'm definitely a stomach person. So
if you have any issues, it'll be in the stomach.
Stomach and intestine is always stimulated at mine. So this is one way. Or another. Let's say you see someone with dark circles below the eyes. You always would say, "Oh, haven't slept enough," or a flu. Or a chemotherapy. So dark circles below the eyes are related to a loss of iron, the mineral. And when we lose iron, we are not able to support our immunity system very well. And that can be seen below the eyes.
Wow, so there are certain things that you can kind of, I guess, calculate by certain tips. So if like you're saying like the gut is like basically connected to like the tip of your nose being red, or under your eye is a lack of iron. So you can kind of like, you can learn these things and then kind of piece it together.
Exactly, and you can do even more. You can relate health with love, for example. I show you an example. When you look on old people, they usually, not usually, but very often old people lose blood from the lips.
Yeah.
The lips get whitish. So why? The lips are connected, especially the lower lip is connected with your colon. So when
your colon and your lower lip are connected?
Yes.
Oh,
so
interesting.
When you do facial massage,
right,
and you want to stimulate the colon, you stimulate the lower lip. Now, when you have not enough blood here in the lower lip, it means your digestive system is weak, falling asleep, not as active as before. And now here comes the funny thing with love or other things. When you see someone on the street doing this, what the guy is thinking is very often, how can I get rid of something? How can I solve the problem? This person is not thinking, oh, my wife is the most beautiful wife. He's more like, how can I solve that? How can I get rid of that?
Right.
So automatically we grab that piece of our face that is related to an organ. Or when you have a dating and women want to get rid of this guy on the other side because they find out, oh, the date runs. Worst scenario, they do this.
But why? But I thought I thought the lower lip was related to the colon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you do that,
right,
it shows I want to get rid of something. Maybe I want to get rid of this guy.
Oh, so
right
like you're basically excreting it. But then you said when someone rubs their lip, like you said, like I do that too right now when I'm rubbing I'm thinking, that's not my colon, that's my brain.
It is exactly. The brain forces you to do that. And it forces you to do that because you want to think, okay, how can I bring that question out? How do I formulate it? How do I present it?
So it's all about like excretion of some kind, or like, which could be the colon, I guess.
Because you wouldn't do that. Oh, how can I get rid of that? Or you wouldn't do that. Oh, how can I get rid of that? You wouldn't do this. Oh, how can I get rid of that? You immediately grab to the right part. You
actually grab your lower lip. That actually makes a lot of sense. So then, what's the difference between face reading and body language, like face language and body language?
Good question. Because it's very interesting that mammals, when they are born, they start to read the body language of mom. You can see that monkeys do that. Yeah. While humans, when they're born, babies, they start to read faces. So we learn especially in the first year, a tremendous amount of information by reading faces. So it's very important that a baby sees a lot of faces as well, especially moms. Right. It's stimulated because in our hypothalamus, we have a center that does face recognition. We now have machines for that. But in our center, the hypothalamus, we have a part, face recognition, trying to observe people and get a clue out of it. So when we do body language, we reduce ourselves to mammals. I mean, I teach politicians, for example, in body language. So when we read newspapers, this guy shake the guy's hand like this or that, I usually laugh because both are trained in body language. So what we judge is who was the better student. Or who has the better PR agency because they take the picture that works best. That's so funny. So body language can be faked easily, and body language is cultural. So if you, for example, do that in France, it's a good sign. Right. But there are some countries where you shouldn't do that because it means something different. So that's actually very true. So body language is very different depending on the culture you're in. Yes. And you think that more or less you can fake body language. Easy. And I agree with you because I used to be in the media training world, and you can teach it very easily. Like basically, if you're sitting this way, if you're behind, how you're sitting, how you're looking, you can definitely teach it. Are you saying then you can't train your face? Your face is what your face is, right? Exactly. See, of course, we always try to fake our face, but it really doesn't work out on the long run. Why do actors always have breaks after 2 minutes, 3 minutes? Because they have to get back in the role they're in, except they play themselves.
Right.
So John Wayne played himself, I would say. Maybe I'm wrong, I didn't know him.
Right.
But imagine John Wayne as a Romeo in a love story. That would have been hard on him. That wouldn't be that easy. So some actors can play lots of roles, while others are very focused on one typical type because they play themselves. They are not able to show and express this role with their face.
So are you looking at the lines in someone's face, like where someone's eyes are versus like the way is it the shape, like the face shape? Is it the lines in the face? What exactly are the techniques to kind of read somebody properly?
So I learned 8 techniques, but
8?
8, possibly 20 exist, maybe more. So I learned 3 Chinese techniques. I learned 2 European techniques.
There's that many techniques?
Oh, there's even more. So in China, face reading, for example, is a little bit like yoga. So there is not the yoga. We have lots of different types of yoga.
Right.
Face reading, lots of different types of face reading. So there is a technique that is, for example, in China, only related to the tongue, to read the tongues because it's a digestive organ. And
but that would be called tongue reading, right? It wouldn't be face reading.
You can call it tongue reading, but it's part of the face. They also check eyes a little bit.
Okay.
But the tongue is the center of the attention. And it's all health related because you cannot read on the tongue, nice person.
Right.
So going back, so the 8 techniques I've learned, some are very altruistic, they are a little bit more philosophical. This is all about when you describe a face, like the shape or how something is built. But then some are extremely modern. This is how you move the muscles in the face, depending on what you feel. See, you're happy, or you feel, well, you don't like this person. So
in the moment, kind of.
In the moment.
You call that? That's called
micro-expression reading.
Micro-expression reading.
This is something you can study in the US as part of the psychology. So there are lots of books about it. This is what I use when I'm working in contract talks, or when I teach policemen, law enforcement, when we do interviews. Then the micro-expression reading is very important to find out someone's lying or what's the emotional status of someone.
So explain what. Okay, so micro-expression reading is a kind of face reading that you can do and that you can teach someone to do. But what's the overall explain in detail the definition of it.
Okay, let's do it with a learning. So your brain, via the facial nerve, is stimulating your 43 facial muscles you have. And you cannot fake that for a long time, maybe for a short time, but then you always make a mistake. Whenever you show a facial expression for longer than 5 seconds, it's a fake. So if someone's laughing at you like, you already feel,
that is such a good one. So so you can only hold a facial expression for 5 seconds or less.
Well, if you hold it longer than 5 seconds,
it's not true.
It's definitely a fake. So also kids who pretend to be sad. They very often double check in between mom if she really gets it. But yeah, that's a fake, first of all. And there's always a quick change in the face. Even when you laugh, it's like, there's always movements. And that's more accurate then.
Right, that's more real.
But then you still have to look not only on the mouth, but also on the eyes, if the laughter is a real one, right? Because when you laugh, eyes and mouth laugh, not only the mouth.
Right. So when people laugh with their mouth only,
it's a social smile.
It's a social smile,
which is okay because nobody wants to know I'm sad and maybe I don't want to give them all the burden. But it could be a tricky smile. It could be a disrespectful smile. It could be a smile after a lie because you get through with the lie. Right.
So micro expression. You can see what? Like, give me what it's good for. When you work with police officers, you said, what is it that what they can pick up on these things? If someone's lying?
Yeah, that's the most basic thing. So first of all, those sentences, the thing that this guy is telling us, is that accurate? And then you check the micro expressions, and by 90%, you can then detect the lie, which is very high. More than 90% is almost impossible, I would say.
Okay, so wait. So you said if someone's holding an expression longer than 5 seconds, they're totally lying and it's fake. Give me a couple other things.
He is pretending. So it doesn't have to be a lie. Let's say someone wants to express something and is not sure about it. Mm-hmm. And then he might express it with a smile to say, hey, please believe me. So it's very likely it's a lie, but it doesn't have to. You have to double check other things as well. So you never can relate a lie to just one thing you see. You should always look for 2, 3 more signs in the face.
Okay, so you said so besides the holding, so what else would I look for?
So the microexpression tell you about emotions, feelings, what's the status of you now. Microexpressions also tell you about expectations that you might have, or thoughts that are running through your head. Mentalists, they usually read your microexpressions because they give you a stimulation, and then they check your microexpression, and then they know, she acts on the stimulation like this and that, and then they already have an idea of what's going on inside you.
They
don't know exact thought, but they know reaction and what was initiating.
Wow. So then, give me some of the things. Microexpression, so some of the things that you can look at. You can look at someone's face shape, right?
Oh yeah, that would be a Chinese technique, reading face shapes. So when we're born, we have circled faces or oval faces. All babies
have that,
And then it's changing latest on when we are in puberty. Some people change their face shape 3, 4 times a lifetime because we can change the face shape with the help of the lifestyle.
Eating.
Or we have a beard. So it's always the shape. It's not bones, right? It's
so the shape can actually change as you age and
also
based on like habits that you're doing, right?
Exactly.
Eating or
but the habits
facial hair
can be referred to who you are.
So
if you eat that, you're more like this. If you eat that, you act more like that. So this is what Chinese looked at 3,000 years ago, and they created a system with 30 different face shapes, and they have names like a tree, a tiger, a king. And it doesn't mean you look like a tiger, but it means 3,000 years ago, they related your personality features with a tiger. So, but...
How many how many shapes are there?
30. In that technique, there's another technique where you have only 5. This is when you use the 5 elements of the Chinese. But the 30, you can nowadays mix because we are more complex than people 3,000 years ago. And I think it's because of lifestyle, but I also think there's a lot more mix in the cultures. And so there's a lot of reasons. So we mix it, and nowadays I would say, therefore, we have 90 different types of face shapes. So,
what do I have? What's my face shape?
Your face shape is a mix of the so-called tree face.
The tree face?
And a king face.
A king face,
But then simple features in your face are not related to the king or the tree. They are related to jade. So we could say by shape, you're king and tree, but you have jade aspects.
Really? Okay, what does that tell you just by looking
a tree face is considered a tree face because this person might act very often like a tree. Now, what is a tree doing? A tree protects, shelters, gives shade, gives fruit, and therefore attracts people. So it tells us already you're caring, you take responsibility, and all of that. A tree...
That's what a tree says, that I'm caring and I take responsibility.
For example. And the tree is also a good teacher, educator. So the tree attracts people, and the people think they know you because it's obvious in what you do. The tree stands here in the middle of nowhere. But the interesting thing is they have no idea because the tree has a skin. And when you have a skin, you are, for a face reader, a loner of thoughts. You're not sharing every thought with everyone. And a tree, when you look outside, they want to grow all life long. Trees grow all life long. Not a lot of things do that. And when trees want to grow all life long, you want to grow all life long as well. So it's unlikely that you will rest at one moment in your life. You're restless, even if you would appear outside calm, restless personality, because you have the inner urge to always grow. The next thing we could say, you're a late bloomer. Because next bench, next leaf, next flower, there's always something coming. When you have that, we already can say you're highly individual, you're idealistic. And when you're highly individual and idealistic, you don't want to be compared with anyone. And when you're highly individual and idealistic, your personality cannot be seen by just this. We could see in your face if you don't feel well, because the tree loses the leaves.
That's true.
So the next thing we would do in China is we would look on what kind of face, what kind of tree you have. But we don't do that because you add already the king. The king is someone who wants to lead, not follow. The king is someone who wants to speak, not listen. The king is good to the little ones, and the little ones don't have to be kids. A king can also mean good to people in need, or employees, or animals. When a king is on a mission, they feel great, because then they have the inner urge to create something. They want to leave footprints. They want to leave their fingerprints somewhere. The king wants to leave something to the planet once they're gone. So they're not only looking for a reign, they're looking for a legacy. The king, that's fun. When the king meets another king.
Oh, wow.
That's fun, because they subconsciously always check the reign of the other king. So, and if they find out the reign is not justified, and so therefore it's always,
like alpha, really. It's like the king is like an alpha.
It's a little bit alpha.
Yeah.
And then if the other king's reign is justified, it could be that one king is in the tribe, let's call it this, of the emperor, and for a while, but will not feel happy on the long run, because every king has the inner urge to establish an own reign. Now, kings are material people, while the jade face of yours is idealistic. But the king is a material person. The kings need to feel and grab what they're here for. They need a castle, they need a war, they need a treasure. And therefore, a lot of kings are related to the material world, and therefore they express it in a different way. Some kings are collectors. Some kings are very physical. That's what you are. So they relate to the body. So kings need to express that, and therefore a lot of kings have addictions as well. And they can be of all different kinds.
Addictions?
Yeah.
So can you tell by looking at my face if I have an addiction, or if I am addicted to anything, or?
Quickly, but that's very generic. So you are definitely addicted to the hormones that you produce when you get excited. So you need...
Like endorphins, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's...
Isn't everybody addicted to endorphins, though?
We have a lot of people who are just mentalists, who just work with the head. And we have a lot of people who you cannot stimulate to go and work out, because they seek pleasures in other things.
In different things.
Yeah.
So wait.
But it's a high amount, it's true.
So if just tell me what the jade face is, and then I'm going to ask you another question. You said I have a tree, a king, and you said jade. Aspect. How many people have this mixture? And then is there dominant, one is more dominant than the other, or?
It relates, well, nobody did ever statistics about it. I found out that it relates, first of all, with the face reader. So where is he around? I meet a lot of kings. Why? Well, I deal with a lot of CEOs.
I was going to say, your client, like, who are your clients?
Oh, okay, back to that. Clients in the US are different than in Asia. Not so much I have in Asia. I have CEOs, I have companies, I have organizations. I work for doctors who are in integrative medicine. I work for health retreats. I work for hospitality. I work for finance. I work for new technology, for entrepreneurs.
So you work for basically across the board. Would you say you see a lot of king faces then?
In that field,
area,
you see a lot of king faces. So you're more surprised if you see a CEO who's not a king face.
How often does that happen?
It happens 3-4 times a year for me. And then it's very interesting, because he became the king without being a king, right?
Yeah.
It's quite funny.
It is.
And because they very often lack leadership skills, but they have different skills. They are maybe good creators, and they have good people skills maybe.
Right.
Or they are super creative. But when they don't have leadership skills, I usually tell them, listen, you need a general. Because if you try to lead, you can do that. There are good books about it. Learn to lead.
Right.
But then you do something that you are not made for.
Right.
And that costs energy. I mean, you can do that, but do you really want to waste energy on that? Use your energy for the talents you already have.
And so you can actually, through face reading, you can tell what somebody professionally would be good at or not.
Yeah.
So you'd be super valuable to any company, really. I mean, you're like,
Want me to give you a small story about that?
Absolutely, I would, Eric.
I'll give you a story from Asia. So there was a dentist, and he went in a psychotherapy for years.
Okay.
And it didn't work out. He was still frustrated, melancholic, and so on. So he said, Eric, I heard from my cousin, I think it was a cousin, that you read faces, and we might get information. And I've read his face, and I said, well, the first thing that I want to ask you, and I checked if he's lying, how is your family life? Because I wanted to see, maybe the family life is the reason for his...
Right.
And he said, my wife, I love her. And the kids, amazing. And I looked at him, and it was true. And I said, okay, let's check the job. And I said, so how's the business? And he said, business runs well. I mean, I'm famous, I'm well known for that. I'm a dentist of the celebrities, everybody's coming. I looked, and he showed some disbalances. It was not like he was happy, but he was satisfied. And satisfied and happy is something different.
Like complacent, you mean?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I saw that, and then I said, okay, you know what? I want to read your talents. And he said, okay, why? And I said, because I'm surprised that you as a dentist have no talent to be a dentist. And then he said, why am I successful then? I said, because one of your talents is to entertain. And I think you have lots of your clients because you're a good entertainer. And people come and they feel welcomed and you entertain them.
Right.
A talent of a dentist is being pragmatic. We call it the talents of the hand. And also be a healer, because that's good if a doctor is a healer.
Right.
And you don't have the talent of healing and you don't have the talent of the hands.
Wow.
And then he said, so what do you think why I did that? And I said, I cannot read that in a face, but I guess you've read when you've been in your 20s, it's a cool job to make a lot of money because you also have the talent of the numbers, which is more related to CFOs. Or your father owned an office. And he said, Eric, it was both. And I said, interesting. Then he said, he was standing in the corner for a while. And then he said after a few minutes, you know what, I think I got the concept. And I said, why? He said, once a month I feel really good. And I said, when is that? This is when I gamble. So
when he gambles?
When he gambles. He feels great. He has no melancholy, no frustration, nothing. And it was because he loves entertaining and he loves numbers. And this is exactly his home base. So he said, Eric, what do you recommend me? Do you think I should be a professional poker player?
I was going to say, a professional poker player.
And I said, maybe you love it too much. So I would recommend you something different. I would recommend you don't work 6 days a week, 10 hours, hire someone. You have enough money. Do 5 days, and then, even then, don't work too much. Entertain the patients, and let others do the work. And then, at home, invite people to your house. Be a host, because you love to give and entertain. They will give you a lot of respect back and love. You will, wow, blossom under that. And the numbers, maybe you find professors who deal with mathematics or something to exchange. And that's what he did. And 2 years later, he wrote me an email, Eric, thanks. It's exactly what I do, and it works out.
Wow. So what I find so fascinating is that this is so helpful for people because they hire someone like you or they use someone like you, and it's like because it's like ingrained in your face, you can't fake that or change it. You were kind of born that way. It can help somebody like really level up in their life or like pick a different path, pick a different career, pick a different partner, because you're saying like two kings aren't good together. Like, is there like a match? Like, what are like is it for two alphas or like a Capricorn and a Virgo, or what kind of thing is it similar with the face reading? Like, is it like a tree person who has a tree face should be with another person with a jade face, or do you have that type of?
There are definitely face shapes that might be more challenging.
And be more compatible.
Exactly.
Right,
but
okay.
I found out if you live your life in a winning way, means you live your talents.
Okay.
And your partner lives his life, her life in a winning way, any shape fits. It's because you fulfill who you are. And then under those circumstances, you meet each other, it works, even if both are kings.
But you're saying two kings, they can always be, it could be a challenge,
But let's say one king is successful, has his company, and the other king, she has also a company and is successful. And they might meet later on the day at home and tell them stories about how the day was, and they feel good with that. So in history, sometimes it worked out that two kings came together and make an even bigger country like Spain, Sweden. But most of the time, kings usually battled. But it's always possible that even two kings come together. It's only rare when you think on Hollywood movies, very often stereotypes, because the king is a man. So a typical king face for a man is Daniel Craig, James Bond.
Oh yeah, of course, James
Bony,
Bond. Yeah.
Small eyes, small pupils, mouth not really shaking.
That's a king face?
That's a pure king. And then the female is very often a pure jade face, which is very sensitive, big eyes, eyelashes, big mouth, full mouth like Julia Roberts usually has.
So like a very female, like what you think of as a female, like just like in your, in like movies, that would be a jade face.
Yeah, so they usually put king and jade in the movies together to express the love story, although that is stereotype. But we don't use some actors for different kind of roles because they just don't fit that kind of stereotype that we expect. So let's say Sharon Stone as a super sensitive, loving housewife next to a king.
Right. It doesn't work.
No.
Yeah.
It doesn't work by face because she is not that person. And she could pretend to be, but then the movie would be like, I don't like the movie. I don't know why.
Right. So how do you pick up on people's character traits? Like, what are you looking at?
Okay. First of all, we have to say there is a difference for a face reader between personality and character.
Okay.
Personality is what we are born with. Every mom knows the kids are different, although it's same mom, same dad, and they have already features. Now, the character is what we develop. Very often we don't develop ourselves. It's been given by mom, dad, teacher, culture, experiences, school, friends, and that is a lot here. It's a lot ego, it's a lot I. If your character is the same as your personality, you are authentic. When your character is far off, you need a psychotherapy. But for most people, it's here.
It's pretty in line. You say for most people.
We overlap. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But we always try to be as authentic as we can. So when I look for the character, I would more look on how the micro-expression of someone works out. Because that tells me a lot on about what has been developed. For example, let's say a person at the age of 5 is like every kid, exploring, curious, happy.
Right.
But then at the age of 34, this guy talks to you like this. Jennifer, I'm very happy that you invited me. And people talk like that. So there must have been happening something. This guy didn't talk like that at 5. No, Mom, I don't like the puppet. I want to have the car. No.
Right.
So something changed
so
in here.
People change as life experience happens. So they can be one way one time and then be different.
And then I quote the way how this person speaks and relate it to a character. So I give you these, let's say I talk to you all the same like this. Definitely not a lot of women would be attracted to kiss this man.
Right.
Why? I mean, he might look good, right? But it's just the way how he talks. And the reason is, subconsciously, we are face readers, we feel restricted emotions. Someone who is not really willing to let go of all emotions and feelings. So we already have a little bit of an idea of the way and style how he kisses.
Right.
Or how he acts in a relationship. He might be very picky or not generous. On the other hand,
by the way he speaks.
Yeah.
Or
on the other hand, you could say might be a good guy for risk management.
Right, because they're showing that they're not open, or they're more reserved, or they're much more. What would be the way you'd put it? Like.
I can only agree.
Yeah.
This is what I would use. Of course, I add more and more and more to have a bigger picture and not just put it down to this, because every person is more colorful than just this. But yeah, if that is one of the important things for the lady dating this guy, well, then please don't date this guy, because if you might look for something different.
So you're looking a lot at the mouth and the lips.
Eyes and mouth. Eyes are the
eyes
most
and mouth.
important.
Eyes, that's what I meant. Mouth and lips.
Think about the smiling. You see only eyes.
Right, you're looking at the eyes and the mouth.
Yeah. When we fall in love with eyes.
Right.
Nobody's falling in love with a nose. Oh, most beautiful nose I've ever seen.
Not my nose, that's for sure, but.
Depends on.
No, look at my nose. I have a big nose. What does my nose tell you?
Big noses are very often underestimated, and usually people say, "Oh, my big nose doesn't look that good," but subconsciously, big noses have a big impact on people.
A big impact on people?
Yeah.
How?
Let's say you would have a tiny little nose.
Okay.
Would you think you would appear the same way? People might say, "Oh, she looks nice, cute, whatever," but the big nose says, "Hello, here I am." It takes space. Oh, you start working.
It takes space.
It takes space.
God,
it's like, "Hello, here I am." You wanna go further? Okay, but not without me. We have to talk here.
But how is that? Okay, I'm thinking like when I was a little kid, I was super self-conscious about my nose. I hated my nose, and probably gave me a lot of like insecurities as a little kid.
Very easy to explain.
But then, okay.
Because as kids, we want to be part of a group. We don't want to look too special. We want to look almost like a stereotype that everybody looks like.
Right, but then how did it like as I got older, I didn't really care anymore, and I became who I am, right? But like, don't those things in life impact how you are, how you kind of appear, like how you kind of like put yourself out there in the world more?
Some are happy with their nose, some are not, and then they do plastic surgery to change.
But I didn't do anything. I'm saying like, doesn't that like? So you're saying I'm like. Like what I'm trying to get at is like my character traits, regardless, like how I am now, I would think I'm confident regardless of the size of my nose. And so that's a character trait I still...
We cannot quote your character by your nose. We could quote features that are related to the nose. For example, style how you work, style how you improve, how your work ethic.
By my nose?
Yeah,
okay,
that's
like
what Chinese believe, for example.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so give me some.
Sorry?
Can you give me some like characters?
Can you show me from the side?
Do I have to? Jeez.
Good. Okay. So
it's different though. My profile on my right is different than my profile on my left.
Yeah, because we have two different point of views about
that.
But right side was the one that you showed me first, which is not surprising, because the right side is the material side, the side of the warrior, and now we are in what you have as a business. You love that. You want to do that. It's not about your emotional side now. So the nose that you have is the typical nose that Chinese face readers would relate to the educator and teacher. It is also the nose of a leader. So she leads with knowledge. She leads through wisdom. She also has a lot of determination, stamina, hardworking, ambitious. This is what they would relate for the quick on your nose.
For the nose.
Yeah.
So if I had a different nose, would that not be my... Those are character traits would still be mine.
Maybe we see those features or characteristics somewhere else. We can see being ambitious also in eyes.
Oh, I see.
But not on the nose then. The nose would then tell us maybe something different.
So
I give you an example. Let's say you have an elder lady, a little bit too much weight, and she has a very, very small and tiny nose.
Yes, please do.
Very often people have the idea, oh, she's a nice grandma. She's a typical take-carer. And my little trick is when I'm in a supermarket, I always check who has the smallest nose here. Because I know they take care. They are very often the ones who
like nurturing, you mean?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So a small nose typically...
When I choose, I look for the smaller noses because I know the big one might be the officer of the supermarket, might be. And then a phone call, sorry, leaving, and so on.
So a smaller nose is more of a...
Look on China. The ones who have smaller noses are the followers. But that's not, as I said, not general. The smaller nose only says, I don't want to be seen.
So a small nose is more of the follower, and a bigger nose is more of the leader. Well, more, I mean, this is all generally
down to here.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically dialing it down. I mean, you have an entire book about this, which is like beyond fascinating. His book is called "Face is Our First Language." It's Read the Face is the book. Well, I'm looking over here. Oh, Read the Face, but I'm reading out the other thing. Sorry, Read the Face. Face reading for success, your career, relationships, health. I mean, it's amazing. So then you talk about the 3-zone method. Can we just kind of touch upon that a little bit?
We can, but to be honest, this is old Chinese traditional wisdom. This 3-zone method would already relate parts of your face to different zones.
Okay.
So let's say your forehead is more dominant.
Okay.
Then you can already say that the brain is a lot bigger than usually.
Oh, okay.
And that is for a reason.
Right.
Maybe the reason is there's a lot of activity going on. So you know already this person is more in mental things. While when you have dominant eyes, you already know this is a visualizing person, a person who is good in observing things and absorbing things with the eyes.
Right.
If this zone is more dominant,
which is your mouth area?
Mouth area, it could be communication, but it's definitely more material. It's more about the material world, eating, kissing, speaking. So the zones also can align to different characteristics of a person. And in China, sometimes they even say, oh, a one with a big zone here, don't mix it with a big zone here.
Why?
Because they think the mentalist will be bored out by this person, or this person will be not physically supported by just a mentalist.
Wow. So there's like the forehead, the eyes, and the mouth area. If one's dominant, you can tell stuff. How about your ears?
Oh, you caught me on my weak side. Why? Of course, I learned about the ears, but the ears is usually what I read last, because the ears are, when you ask painters, they said, oh, ears, hardest to paint, because you can get lost in ears. To read ears is almost a philosophy for itself. Ears are related, definitely, to childhood.
Right. To childhood.
And ears are also, you know, when you go to acupuncture, it are related to some health issues. So very often the kidneys, for example, or bladder, and so on, is related to ears. Also, spiral issues can be seen in the ears. So yeah, that's something we could talk about 3-4 hours anyway.
How about teeth?
There was a teeth reading in China, ancient times. Nowadays it doesn't make sense anymore.
You don't do that,
Maybe
right?
in China,
right?
But not here. To be honest, everybody goes to the dentist. Everybody takes care of that.
So that stuff you can change. So again, it's like some stuff that is you can manipulate, right? You can change your teeth, you can change your hair. So those things aren't exactly like the body language.
Yeah.
So that's not as effective as being able to read someone's facial lines, eyes, mouth, nose. Things you can't really change.
Yeah, you're right. But face readers wouldn't call it manipulate because someone wants to see like that. That person wants to be expressed in that way.
Right.
So you already know something about this person. Even the hairstyle that you choose, you want to express yourself in that way. It already tells you something about this person. It might be not 100% you, but you want to be seen like that. And therefore you already know a little bit about this person. And then on top, any feature that you see has to be proven by microexpression. And that you cannot change.
Can you tell us a story about how what you do or has helped someone in business? Make a good decision or a really poor decision?
I had a CEO in Singapore that was, I think, 2 years ago now, 2 years ago, and he called me and said, Eric, I established this new department. I have 8 or 9 people now around me. They're all good in finance. I choose them pretty well. I'm really happy about it. But they already operate since half a year. We have no outcome. Nothing's going on. Please fly in Singapore, take a look on the team. Mm-hmm. I went there. And I spoke to the team, and the nice thing is they were all Chinese, so they know what a face reader means, and they found it even great and funny, so they all showed me their family pictures, and I said, listen, it's about you. But it was good. So I stayed with them for a day, I talked with everyone, try to find out
on the team,
yeah. Try to find out the personality. And on the second day, I looked at the workflow, how they interact with each other. And then on the evening of the second day, I had dinner with the CEO. And the CEO said, so Eric, what's your point on it? And I said, well, first of all, congratulations. And he said, why? I said, you choose well. You have good people skills. And he said, thank you for the flowers. I want to know the problem. What's going on? Who's the problem here? Maybe it's just one. And I said, well, it's true, it's only one. The problem is the CEO. And he said, what do you mean, I'm the CEO? And I said, yeah, that's the problem. And he said, what do you mean? I am the problem for all of that? And I said, yeah. Why? And I said, you have no leadership skills. And this team is a team of soldiers. And they need the leader. And you're not with the team. You choose them, but then you disappeared. Because you don't want to lead. You want to create all the time. You're an entrepreneur and you have good people skills, yes. But what I would recommend you is that team needs a general. They need someone to lead them. And then they are willing to go to any battle.
Right, you said that in the beginning also that like when you have like CEOs, when you see a CEO and when they're not like a king, they don't have those leadership skills, right? And like you can't fake that. Like some people, like you said, that's not part of their DNA, so to speak.
Can't help.
So what you can help with is kind of tell people where they're remiss on and help them fill in those like holes where they're clearly not able to do it on their own. So what happened? Did he hire a general then, or did he hire somebody to be a better manager? Or
that could be, yeah. Or they support.
No, that in that one situation that you're telling us.
Oh, okay, one situation. Let me think.
No, with that guy, with the CEO. What happened?
Oh, he hired someone.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But he could have supported one of the team. I also recommended him 2 of the team that might be good as a general. But I left it up to him to do that. And he said it might be not good because they all worked together for half a year and they know each other as soldiers. And now out of the blue, you say, now this one is the general.
Right, you can't really do that in a corporate environment.
Sometimes you can, but not often, true.
How about the other story that I saw in your book about weight loss or weight gain? What was that story about? Like, how did you?
There's a lot of stories about gaining weight. So one story is that I experienced in Thailand. I have been at a health retreat.
Right.
And there was a lady, she was in her 50s. And she came to my session to ask, why is she always gaining weight, although she has this diet, that diet, she takes care of the food, and she just doesn't know.
Right.
Well, what I know from this lady is that she already consulted the doctor, the Chinese doctor there, and the Westerner. And so she already had a plan, 2 plans. And then she comes to me, and I said, listen, that might be a conflict for you now.
But how do you help with that, like weight loss?
Oh, wait a moment.
Okay.
It's different. It's very often different. So I said, listen, you might have a conflict if I tell you. And then she said, no, I want to know. And I've read her face, and I could see she has a weakness of the metabolism for simple carbohydrates. And I could also see that she's not digesting that very well. She's collecting it. I think one of the doctors might have told her to stay away from simple carbohydrates because she has the weakness of the metabolism here.
So you could tell someone's metabolism by looking at their face.
Oh, of course.
That's again with the health benefits.
Of course.
A gut.
Of course.
Or
I mean, our faces change under the influence of food.
Of food.
Sometimes immediately, 6 beer, you look different. Sometimes over the years. If you let's say you eat burgers 10 years in a row, the cheapest ones maybe, how do you look then? You look different than someone who has eaten green salad 10 years or whatever. So
right.
It changes our face because it changes the connective tissue, it changes the liquid of the connective tissue, the colors, a lot of things. I told her, listen, I read your face and I can tell you a lot about your issues in terms of food, but I noticed that one part of your face is related to an age where there must have been a big impact. It's Chinese old face reading style. I think it was 34 or 33 that I've read in her face, and I said, I think that all the health and gaining weight issues you have is related to an event that must have happened 33, 34. And she started crying out of the blue. And for me, that experience was for the first time. It's almost 10 years ago. And I just waited till she stopped crying, and I got her tissues, and then she said, that was the year when my daughter died in a car crash in London.
Oh,
and
shame.
what she did is she left London immediately, went to the Emirates, Abu Dhabi, and started working as an event manager, and she only worked. That's all she did. Working, going back to the hotel, staying there. She never got back to London. Of course, Christmas or something. And then she said, so Eric, what do you think I should do? And I said, well, I'm not a psychologist, but you need help. You need to go back to London and try to digest that event, that conflict inside you that is related to that year. And she said, do you come with me? And I said, I'm definitely not coming with you. And she said, come on, you have been the first one who saw that. And I said, listen, I'm a face reader. I'm an advisor. I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
I do not diagnosis. I do not therapies. There are a lot of better people. I am the one with the bell. Bing, bing.
Right.
Maybe I'm a coach, but this is not to be coached.
Right. But I'm sure people do. Like they probably do mix up like consultant, advisor to therapy, right? Because it's a form of therapy to them, right? Because they're trying to figure out what's going on with them.
And that's why I recommend every therapist to learn a little bit face reading.
No, I agree. And I think for people who are intuitive, they have that thing that we were talking about earlier, that they're good at the micro expression face reading. Yeah. You know, and I think anybody can get good at it if they look for the right signs.
Absolutely.
But there probably is, like, the people are they want you to solve their problems by like reading other people. What I'd like to ask you is, what are like three tips you can give the layman person like me to look for when we meet somebody? How do we really genuinely get to know somebody? Is there like 3 questions or 3 things we can look at to quickly get to the core or the root of that person?
So to get to know someone genuinely in seconds, that's almost impossible. It will take
forever, but I mean...
Forever. But okay, you can definitely find out what is the feeling, the emotion, the person right now at the moment.
Just a little bit of like, just a starting point for some people.
Well, we said eyes are most important, so we take a look on the eyes.
Right.
And the eyes are divided into sclera, this is the white part, iris, this is the color part, and pupil, the black part. And already that tells us a lot. Why? Well, let's say the pupil is small or the pupil is large. Kids very often show large pupils.
Right.
Why? The nervous system is stimulated in an imaginative way. They see colors, they have fantasies, dreams, they're excited, boom. So when you have someone with big pupils right in front of you, you already know imaginative person. loves colors, loves emotion. So when I approach him as a salesperson,
Right.
I would not say, oh, listen, this thing costs 12,000. If you do that, you save 1,200. I would say, wow, look at that color of the car.
Right.
Wow, right? And inside the leather, it's white. Wow, you feel it. Can you feel it? Oh, it's great.
Right.
If you have someone with small pupils right in front of you, this is someone who's calculating. So I give him numbers. I give him things to think about. And the interesting thing is you could even recommend food and drinks, because the one with the large pupils usually go for the sweet things or for smoothies or maybe for the matcha tea. But the small pupils are the coffee drinkers. And you can already relate a little bit like that to the people. The sclera, the white part, is usually on the left and on the right of an eye.
Okay.
And sometimes the sclera shows up below the iris. And that is very often the case when the iris goes, I call it upstairs.
Okay.
It means it shows energy loss. You know when people die?
Yeah.
But not only when people die, when you lose energy, iris goes up.
But what are we looking for is, I guess, my question. It's like, when you say look at the eyes like that, what are we learning if they're drinking coffee or doing whatever you're saying?
You already know this person is a thinker, this person is
Is
someone
it good with
inferior.
numbers and like? But is there a way to kind of be okay? But like that to me is a little difficult, right? Because when I look at your eyes, I get it, but I'm not an expert in that like detail. Is there something else we can do that's not so?
Well, listen, you only have to show a little bit patience. Let's say you sit together with a man with my eyes, right? Small pupils. So you talk. Then after 5 minutes, my pupils out of the blue. Mm-hmm. So you know what I've said just touched his heart. Mm-hmm. He gets imaginative. That's a big help.
Yeah.
Or I have always big pupils, and then they're like, oh, what an imaginative personality. And out of the blue, oh, I gave him something to think about. Mm-hmm. So this is a way to interact with people and to, if you wish, you could even maneuver them. But on the other hand, you just show empathy if you act on this. So there's a lot that you can see just by that.
Give us one more we can go with.
Let's say, I'll give you something that you might see easier. Let's say gestures to the face, because body language is this. Mm-hmm. Gestures to the face, we usually don't do.
You mean gestures?
Yeah, gestures.
Gestures to
we
the
don't
face?
do by purpose. Nobody has in his head, oh, I do now grab my ear.
Right.
I want to rub my forehead. No, we don't do that because we learned, by the way, every culture, touching the face is not a good idea. Bacteria and all that stuff,
Right.
so we don't do it. Women do it less than men, maybe because of makeup, can be other reasons as well. So when someone grabs the face, this is something that happens subconsciously. And not for no reason, there's always a reason behind
Right.
it. So when someone touches the face, we only have to refer this part of the face to something, right? So, for example, if someone wraps the nose, that's a deep sign of stress.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Because
when I go like this to my nose, it's stressed. I'm stressed out.
Yeah.
What if when someone does this?
you stimulate your lungs, you want to take a deep breath, so that's why you do. If you do that, you grab your nostril like this. That means I need more space. So when I do interviews for police and law enforcement, and we have possible criminal, and he does this,
When you scratch the
I know
inner
I
part
have
of
him
your
in the
nose?
corner. He wants to get out.
Okay.
Or someone does that. That means proof. I prove you.
Oh, they want proof.
Yeah.
I do this all the time.
Yeah, so this
That's
is
when you're
proof.
grabbing your chin.
But the interesting thing is when someone stops it, then decision is made. So you can even stop explaining a lot of things. So this is still proving, and then you stop. And then you know, already made a decision. When you then now read microexpression, you know the decision is good or bad for you.
That's interesting. How about when someone bites the inner of their lip like this?
Inside, you mean?
Inside their lip.
That's more difficult. It can mean two things. It depends on the personality. But what it mostly means is I want to say something, but I hold myself back. It's the same like when you use the tongue.
What does that mean?
It means the same. I
You
want
wanna say
I want
something?
to use my tongue.
But you won't. You're not going to say
I
something.
hold myself back, yeah. And depending on the eyes, you're angry, or you're just ashamed, or depending on that.
Now, if someone plays with their hair like this, is that body language, or it's more? Is it?
It's both. It's both. But and it can be related to a lot of things. First of all, it can be related to your personality. Maybe you do that all the time.
Right.
And it would be a sign of playfulness.
Oh, okay.
or because you are easily bored. You're a person who's also easily bored, so therefore we always have to give you variety and colorful things. It shows, okay, boring starts. But it could be also, if you, let's say you don't have that feature as a personality, it could mean, hey, I want to be seen in the room. And so you do something that is not too offensive, but courts attention. And playing with long hair is always a good sign. When there is a competition between women, because there's one guy, and everybody wants to be seen by him, they would usually stress the hair to be more seen.
How about dimples? When people have dimples, what is that?
Dimples, in the European face reading tradition, there is nothing about moles and dimples, but Chinese love it. How many politicians and CEOs do you know who have dimples in the cheek? Almost nothing. No one.
Really?
Maybe there is one or two, but think about it. And if you find out someone, let me know, because I can use that picture as an
example.
Exception.
Why is that? Then why is that?
Well, first of all, the cheeks are, for Chinese, pillow of power. So depends on how the cheeks look like, you deal with power in a different way. So think of Clint Eastwood.
Okay.
The Pale Rider.
Right.
Oh.
The gaunt cheeks.
Exactly. And another one looks more like this. Oh, he might be in charge, but he's more relaxed with it. So let's say you have dimples in your pillow of power.
Okay.
That means, well, you have the ability to make people smile. You have the ability to find the right word at the right moment. So that's more a diplomat or an entertainer or someone who loves communication. But it minus the ability by appearance to be a leader.
So people who have dimples are usually not leaders.
Not typically. It could be that they have eyes and mouth that say opposite. And then you say, okay, because of those eyes overrule. You are a leader, but you're a funny leader.
I have dimples though, right?
Honestly, we would not relate it to dimples, sorry.
No, I don't have dimples?
I would not relate it to the typical dimples that we use in face reading.
You don't?
Yeah.
Because they're just
they should be more...
They're more lines.
More dominant.
They're more just like, aging lines. Okay, fine. So people, I think that's funny. So people basically who have dimples are typically not leaders. And does it make, if someone has one dimple versus two dimples, does that tell you something different? Because a lot of people have two versus, a lot of people have one versus two.
Exactly. It's always about the proportion. The more you have, the more potential in that kind of field you have.
Okay.
An interesting dimple is the one you have here.
Oh, a cleft in the chin. Yeah.
Because there are, I think, 2 or 3 different sayings about that, even in the Greek culture. So the one thing is what they say about your personality because of that dimple.
Yeah.
Whatever she does, she gives 150%. This is one thing they say about that.
Okay.
Second thing they say about that comes from facial diagnosis, goes back to Hippocrates. One disposition she has to take care of when it comes to health is lower back and abdomen.
So when you have a cleft in your chin, you have to look at, it says to you...
It's a disposition. When you get out of balance, the body very often reacts with the abdomen or the lower back.
So the stomach, your abdominals, or your lower back get out of whack. Yeah. But what does it say about your actual personality traits or character traits that you...
It was just, whenever she acts, she gives 150%. The warning in it is, be careful not to attract too many people who only give 10%.
And then you said one other thing. When someone has the lines at the top of their lips, what's that area called on the top of their lips?
Philtrum.
A philtrum. When someone has a philtrum.
The philtrum is the last part that it has been built in mom's womb when the baby's born. It's in the last weeks.
Okay.
So if people come to life without a philtrum, it's even for doctors a little bit of a worrying sign. It means that mom must have used kind of addictive things like eating too much sugar, smoked cigarettes, or drank alcohol or coffee too much. That part is philtrum, is Old Greek and means miracle of love. We could also say it's affection. And therefore you see in a lot of actors' face a strong, deep philtrum. And the way how it's built, and the Chinese know 60 different philtrums, it means something different.
Wow, it's like there's so many, I can literally go on forever. I mean, there's so many questions I can ask you. I know it's been an hour. That's what I'm saying. I'm just going to tell people to get your book because you really go over everything in this book, like beyond. It's called Read the Face, Face Reading for Success. Eric Standop, you've been a really great guest.
Thank you.
No, thank you. And thank you for being, again, a great sport by jumping on a treadmill and basically walking as we do this workout. It's kind of hard sometimes to read my face and do it, but you were a real trooper. Is there anything else that you want to kind of touch on that we haven't?
Yes, one last thing.
Okay.
First of all, to give everyone confidence that everyone is a face reader. And you can train it. It's a muscle. You cannot use it, then you lose it. The less you deal with people, the less you're good in it. The more you deal with people, the more you train it. And when you have maybe a conflict between a business card or any good reference, but also your feeling, trust your feeling. Because the feeling has been stimulated by the face recognition skills you have.
Oh, I agree. And that's why I really wanted to have you on. I think all of these things are extremely useful and helpful. When I think more than anything for success in life, it's about having good people skills and being intuitive. And like you just said, it's like a muscle. Everyone can get better at it if they just have the tools and learning like small little things of how to read someone's face or what they're thinking or how they are by these little tips and tricks that you provide. I think it's really, really, it's fascinating, and it's a great thing to have in your toolbox. So thank you so much. There's so many more things I wanted to go over with you, so you're going to have to come back.
I would love to.
I really had a great time with you. Thank you. How do people find you?
Internet, type in face reader Eric or Eric Standop. It's very easy to find me then.
Are you on any kind of social media?
I'm in social media. You find me on Facebook and Instagram, but more on Facebook and on YouTube.
On YouTube,
or on you go on ericstandup.com.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being a guest.
Thank you.
Habits and hustle, time to get it rolling. Stay up on the grind, don't stop, keep it going. Habits and hustle, from nothing into something. All out, hosted by Jennifer Cohen. Visionaries, tune in, you can get to know them. Be inspired, this is your moment. Excuses, we ain't having that. The Habits and Hustle podcast, powered by Habit Nest.